Liu Bei shared cup after cup of warm wine with his old comrade Zhao Yun. Zhao Yun had been a general in the service of Gongsun Zan, one of Liu Bei's fellow students in their teenage years in a government academy. This Gongsun Zan had risen to become a governor in the far north, while Liu Bei, who never made it beyond the basics in his scholarly pursuits, had been cast back onto the street without office, as his father before him had been. Despite exiting imperial education in very much opposite directions, they had renewed their bond by fighting together during the worst of the rebellion. There, Liu Bei had met Zhao Yun, and the two had become firm friends. Warmed by the wine, Liu Bei admitted a deep concern to Zhao Yun. "Though I have come further than I dreamed possible in these last 2 years, and have been entrusted with grave responsibilities to the Empire, I cannot help but feel I am unworthy of it. Of all the men in the land, only you would dare question your worth in such a manner, my lord, and yet only you need not question it at all," Zhao Yun said. "You have only just arrived, but you're so sure of this." "My lord, when a man proves that he is of the utmost integrity and compassion on just a single occasion, there is no need to fear that he will act any differently when out of your sight. You are widely praised as a ruler who displays both vigor and humility. Who else can say that? Surely Gongsun Zan meets those criteria. Alas, he fails to see the importance of the times we've been served. He cannot bring himself to rescue the Empire. Finally, I saw that I could not dally there a moment longer and came to you. No one else is so righteous or so worthy of the scraps of use I may provide. Please do not forget your path and purpose. The people and Emperor both rely on you alone." This shining review cheered Liu Bei up a good measure, and he at last returned his thoughts to the matter of removing the conniving governor Cao Cao from office. Zhao Yun joined Liu Bei's court, becoming the commander of Tao Chen's army, and thus removing any connection they once had to the former governor for good. Zhao Yun went north to investigate a Han magistrate said to still be submitting Jews to the false capital at Chang'an. Liu Bei and his brothers moved south towards Cao Cao's seat of power, the city of Yangzhou. The banners on the wall bore no sign of the general who reforms mankind, but they did bear the name Cao Ren, a member of Cao Cao's noble clan. As Liu Bei's army approached the city in the depth of winter, Cao Ren was infuriated. "How dare that rat come here when Lady Bian has not been properly mourned?" he shouted to his assembled officials. "Who will come with me to punish this traitor and avenge our lady?" "That would not be wise," a voice said. It was Guo Jia, one of Cao Cao's top strategists. "You think I cannot overcome them? To me, Guan Yu is just an ungroomed soldier dressed in fine silks, and Zhang Fei is an empty-headed brute who will trip on his own spear at any moment. Why are you questioning my decision? The snow grows deeper by the day. Why lift a finger to defeat those inconsequential rebels? Let their men's spirits wither outside, and then we can deal with them easily. Is anyone else too cowardly to serve our lord? What would he say if he learned I'd let the traitor Liu stand outside my city without so much as an arrow fired? Our enterprise would become a laughingstock. We shall attack in the morning, and any who refuse will be executed." The order was carried out, and most of the military officials of Yangzhou braved the falling snow and icy winds beyond the city walls. There they came upon Liu Bei's army, arrayed in battle formation on the other side of a river. "General Cao, we must not attack," Guo Jia advised. "The river may be shallow at this time of year, but it is also bitterly cold. Liu wants our men to lose their agility by crossing it. Furthermore, it is said that men from Yi province have instructed their archers, and they are particularly fine. With these factors together, it would be impossible to approach him from the front. He is counting on us doing just that." Perhaps before Guo Jia could continue, Cao Ren roared out and drew his sword. "The traitor is right before our eyes, and you still demoralize the men by speaking of him with such a reverent tone. I've had enough. We attack at once." The Cao troops, grumbling and disorderly, marched for the freezing river. "Release the arrows," Liu Bei called. The missiles fell and stained the sparkling river flow with streaks of blood. Cao soldiers pulled themselves forwards through the water with their halberds, but their wet clothes anchored them in place even when they reached the opposite bank. The arrows continued to fall, and that any portion of Cao Ren's army made it across was due only to the bodies of the fallen partially damming the river. Hearing the cries of those in the river, Guan Yu and Zhang Fei began their own crossings up and downstream, allowing them to appear at Cao Ren's rear while the army was only half across. Seeing all this, Guo Jia sighed and slipped away. Finally, a sizable group of Cao troops made it across the river, and they followed Cao Ren in a charge right towards Liu Bei's banner. Liu's men appeared to meet them, and battle was joined. Cao Ren cut a path forwards to reach Liu Bei himself. "Traitor Liu, a man who speaks of virtue but dares not show it. The type of man cousin Cao will eradicate in his new order," Cao Ren growled. "I'll listen not to talk of virtue from you, the rat that follows the dog," Liu Bei retorted. The two leaders crossed swords. However, Liu Bei's lack of study was very much related to his boyhood fascination with martial arts, and so while he was of only mediocre ability in that regard, Cao Ren did not find the quick justice he sought. Ren eventually cursed the heavens and ran, losing his nerve for being so deep in enemy lines. Guan Yu and Zhang Fei oversaw the destruction of the dry portion of the Cao force, while the wet portion, seeing this and already unsettled by the miserable circumstances, fled or surrendered to Liu's men. Cao Ren was dashing about imploring otherwise, but his voice was unheard. Quickly it was he alone with weapon still in hand. With a final curse he fled. However, over his shoulder he saw Liu Bei riding after him. He bid his steed go faster, but it was already exhausted. The pursuing horse arrived with unbelievable speed, and before Cao Ren could turn to defend himself, Liu's blade was in his back. Their victory complete, the Liu army attended to the aftermath hastily, leaving the Cao bodies blocking the river in place so that they could quickly bring their baggage train across the same day. A short distance down the road, they saw a man tapping a rhythm on a fallen tree trunk he sat upon, singing, "Heroes high, heroes low, the crane embraces the fish. Agreed that to the future, the people make a tender bridge." Liu Bei summoned the man to him, and he introduced himself as none other than Guo Jia. The strategist offered to show Liu Bei the best way to secure Yangzhou in exchange for his life. Liu Bei clapped with delight and welcomed Guo Jia into his retinue. "What if this is his ruse to become Cao Cao's inside man?" Guan Yu asked. "Do not be so suspicious. Good men are trapped in the service of the bad across the land. If we are not welcoming, how will they avoid becoming like Wang Yun?" Liu Bei scolded him, and nothing more was said of the matter. To the north, Zhao Yun had built a winter camp for his men on the border of Tao Chen's old farmlands in Chen Commandery. On the same day as the battle near Yangzhou, he was foraging in the nearby woods with his men when a sudden gust of wind blew an old tree over. It fell, pointing in the direction of his camp. Zhao Yun raced back, and when he arrived, he thanked heaven for its aid. Cao Cao had a detachment of troops approaching the camp, and the men inside were panicking. "Gather your weapons, soldiers! I will deal with them for now," Zhao Yun said, dashing out of the camp and facing off against the approaching raid. "Halt! This camp is under the protection of Lord Liu Bei. Who dares approach it under arms?" "You should have surrendered at once, whoever you are," a voice replied. "We've no patience for pretenders. Best to kill you now and be rid of you." "I am Zhao Yun of Changshan. Now you'll know it as long as you live," Zhao Yun called, jumping forwards and bounding into the Cao lines with spear outstretched. He ploughed through the foot soldiers as easily as the night's snowfall, and embroiled himself with the attack group's officers behind them. Seeing such faultless valour, one of Tao Chen's top warriors, Gao Ding, burst from the camp also and joined him. Zhao Yun's soldiers got organised and arrayed themselves just outside the camp, meeting the delayed arrival of Cao's men in good order. Zhao Yun saw his banners in their proper places and stopped worrying about his camp. With renewed vigour, he rained a string of blows upon the Cao commander, who dropped their sword and fled when they realized Zhao Yun's flurry showed no signs of ending. Someone among the foot soldiers realized their leader was fleeing, and within moments the whole group made their exit, ending the raid almost as soon as it had begun. Only one man stayed behind. It was Cheng Heng, a lowly retainer of Cao who dared not turn his back to Gao Ding, his current opponent. Zhao Yun rode over to observe the two fighting. Both men were panting for breath, but neither was faltering in their form. Some men from the camp arrived and asked Zhao Yun to help their commander. Zhao Yun shook his head and said, "Life and death are not important concerns. Any warrior is happy to die if the proper customs of battle are respected." So saying, he watched on as the two men battered each other with increasing desperation. With Zhao Yun watching and loudly moralizing nearby, neither could live with anything but victory now. Eventually, Gao Ding lunged forwards in a last-ditch effort, and his spear ran Cheng Heng through. Zhao Yun was finally satisfied that the victory was worthy of celebration and returned to camp. By the time he was ready to continue his journey north to the city of Yingchuan, Guo Jia was standing before the gates of Yangzhou with a column of Cao prisoners at his back. The guards called out for the gates to be opened to let their strategist in, but as soon as they did so, the sound of war drums rolled out from behind Guo Jia, and Liu Bei, Guan Yu and Zhang Fei stormed into the city. Guo Jia sighed once more and sat beneath a tree where the sounds of the chaos within the walls would not reach him. Cao Cao was nowhere to be found, but his household effects were still lying around the magistrate's office. The servants said he had fled a week prior with a few riders. Liu Bei was back to sulking, his victory soured by the injustice of Cao's escape. "Take heart, brother. Without Yangzhou, he is without the office he laid claim to. Now Cao Cao is nothing more than a bandit," Guan Yu said. "He'll not content himself to a mountainside lair," Liu Bei lamented. "He might even flee to Dongzhuo. What a league of villains they would make." "Why so glum, brother?" Zhang Fei asked. "We're standing here in Cao Cao's inner sanctum, and he was said to be a military genius. What will stop us walking from here to the Emperor's chambers?" Nodding, Liu Bei agreed to see light in his victory and got to work organizing the city. The seal of the governor of Yan was missing, but Liu Bei had a fresh seal made in its place and wore it around his neck as he presided over the city court. Many people came to offer gifts, but Liu Bei dismissed any unimportant visitors after too many asked after the fate of so-called Governor Cao. Giving the guards discretion over such matters caused a critical piece of news to be delayed. Taishan had been overrun by an army of Yellow Turban rebels. Under the auspices of Huang Shao, the city of Dong had been mobilized into a fresh revolutionary army. Taishan fell without much resistance. Liu Bei's promise to the people had been broken, and Huang Shao's had been kept. But the wielder of the Heavenly Way had promised to heal the entire empire, so the fate of Liu Bei's Shu province was now quite uncertain. Only Zhao Yun's troops were anywhere near the scene of the action, but they had a more urgent matter to attend to. The magistrate of Yingchuan, Chen Ji, had come from the city to attack Zhao Yun. He led 1,000 Han Empire men and rode beneath a banner that read, "General who stills chaos." They spotted Zhao Yun camped on the hillside and advanced in battle formation to challenge him. Zhao Yun formed his men into two lines and began showering the Han troops with arrows. Then he rode out alone, forced his way past the soldiers, and found Chen Ji at their rear. "Do not interfere with the restoration of the Han!" Zhao Yun shouted. "Huh, every bandit in the land claims to restore the Han. Were it not for all you, Prime Minister Dong would have done so already," Chen Ji retorted, sheathing his sword and turning his back on Zhao Yun. Zhao Yun growled, but did not dare disrespect the refusal to fight. He turned and was about to ride back to his lines, but Gao Ding was battling his way towards him. The wounds from the duel with Cheng Heng were reopened by the action, and he almost fell from his horse when he reached Zhao Yun's side. "General Gao, you've gone too far," Zhao Yun said. Gao Ding, ashamed, said nothing.
You must flee. But then what will the enemy soldiers think of us? Ah, that's it. We can raise the enemy's spirits so that they will see this battle through. That way, the traitors will not be able to return to safety. Will you do this for the Empire, General Gao?
Gao Ding agreed. He rode over to Chen Ji and held out his spear in challenge. Chen Ji eyed Gao Ding's broken armor, blood leaking through the sides.
The Emperor will reward me greatly for taking your head, he said, beginning the combat.
Gao Ding put in a short performance, but then turned and fled before his poor condition got him into trouble. Chen Ji jeered, and his soldiers celebrated his victory with him. In their jubilation, they failed to see how Zhao Yun's men were pressing the front of their formation with deadly strength. In truth, the whole affair behind the front lines had separated the army and seen the vanguard overwhelmed, and this affair was still not over. Zhao Yun, now on foot, challenged Chen Ji a second time. Flushed with his victory over Gao Ding, Chen Ji agreed and began slashing out with his blade. Zhao Yun stepped around the blows effortlessly, predicting the direction of each slice even before it was made. He kept Chen Ji occupied for a short while until he saw all around him that the traitor Han troops were completely disorganized and starting to flee. Then, with one arcing sweep of his spear, Zhao Yun cut Chen Ji across the torso and said, "Magistrate, I hereby strip you of your office in the name of the Han. Return to the city. I will come to oversee your sentencing soon." Zhao Yun smiled and walked off to find his horse. Knowing he need not trouble Liu Bei with receiving news of such a trifling victory, he prepared to keep his promise to Chen Ji at the Yingchuan Magistrates Hall. Liu Bei, sitting in a similar hall in Yangzhou, was instead subject to only bad news. Word of the Yellow Turban insurrection had the city trading secretive remarks, and now there was fresh trouble. Wang Lang, the administrator of Pengcheng on the edge of Shu province, had declared he would honor the imperial proclamation to slay the rogue warlords, starting with Liu Bei. Now Liu Bei was surrounded by enemies, with Huang Shao and the rebels in the north, Wang Lang in the east, and Cao Cao to the west and south. A loyal man would not dare shirk from his duty to purge their corruption, yet a wise man would not dare challenge the world to battle. Liu Bei had both types of men in good supply at the Yangzhou court. Which approach would he take? Read on.